Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Success is Complicated podcast. I am Raquel, your host.
And I am your co-host, Sierra.
All right, so we're going to just go ahead and dive in. We're going to be talking about like privilege today. What does it mean to be privileged? How do you know if you're privileged? But before we jump into the topic, I do want to let y'all know that we're going to have this episode and then one more episode before we take a break, but we will be back probably within the next 30, 40, 45 days maybe.
Okay.
45 days just for the summer.
We're going on summer break.
We're going okay, yeah, we're going on summer break. So maybe the next episode, if people wanted to like present questions and have us ask questions, then maybe we could use that last episode to kind of address those questions.
Oh, cute.
Yeah. So anyhow, let's go ahead and talk into it. So straight into it, privilege, right?
Mhm.
Textbook wise, white, male, heterosexual, no disability, and socioeconomic status. That's textbook.
Okay.
So I guess in terms of privilege, I'm heterosexual. I'm not white, I'm not a male. I ain't got no disability. Socioeconomic status. By what they put on the paper, I'm gonna take that one off. I got two. I mean, by you go off of what I made, but it's like what you got. Okay, it's technically three. Okay, it would be three, but not for real though.
You got 3 privileges, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, 3 privileges.
Okay.
3 privileges.
Okay.
Where you fall at? Just textbook wise, because where you fall at? Same, about the same.
Yeah, probably the same. I mean, I don't know if heterosexual is a privilege these days, but
Really? So why not?
Because I think that the world is just becoming more inclusive of just different sexual preferences. I mean, at this point, you put he, she, them on your profile. So
Wait.
I don't know if just being heterosexual is just like.
All right, so how do you define privilege then?
I mean, I get what you're saying.
No, but I want to know, how do you define privilege?
Privilege is like a given opportunity. I mean, I don't know. I don't have a lot of.
Well, why did you say heterosexual? You got 3 of them.
It don't include heterosexual.
To not be gay in today's society is a privilege.
Not when you have managers and like people who are going to hire you putting their rainbows up. It's not a.
But not everybody sees them the same way.
No, it's like a connection. It's like being like alpha, beta, phi.
No. Not everybody see. Like, there are people that still hate gays. There are places you can go where they would kill you for being gay.
In the U.S.? I mean,
I don't.
Let me not say it like that because I'm not crazy and dumb either. But what I am saying is that if you have a different sexual orientation today, in the U.S., it may grant you some privileges.
No different from being black then.
Okay.
I mean, do you agree or I'm just curious to hear about you, how you hear about, because girl, you jump right into it. Like, heterosexual is not a privilege.
I mean, isn't.
So let me make sure. What you're saying is, the way that you're saying that being a heterosexual is not a privilege.
It's just general. Like, it shouldn't even be in like the privilege talk.
But okay, help me understand why. Like,
I mean, if we're saying that like your sexual preference, like if we're saying privilege, period, right? And you're saying textbook, you're saying like white male, certain age, social economic status, and all those other things. Like, why is like your sexual preference even a thing.
So, but that might be the word though, is preference, because what I'm hearing you say is like preference, like choice. And I think that that's probably where the lines can get a little grayed at, because
I mean, you just said textbook, and maybe I just went all the way to
right. I mean, that is textbook wise, right?
right.
That's what that's what they say. These are the privileges that you have. But I guess you can get into, because you don't get to choose whether you're male or female.
Right.
You don't get to choose whether...
But male is considered a privilege too.
Right, male is considered a privilege. You don't get to choose whether you're white or black either, or
Right.
like a minority or the majority.
Right.
I guess socioeconomic status, I don't know. Like,
I mean, at some point you will hope you're choosing it, right?
Right. So now when I think about it from that perspective, maybe I don't agree with the text, but because I remember when I first, like, when becoming a counselor, it's like, these are the privileges, and to be culturally competent, like, you have to understand these things.
Right.
And I just think that it was so limited. I thought that it was very limited in terms of like what privilege is. And I was thinking about how, if this is what we're putting in the category of what it means to be, well, let me go back. I was talking to this lady the other day. It was a white lady, and we were talking about diversity and inclusion.
Mm-hmm.
And she said that the first time that someone had told her that she was privileged, she got very upset about it, because she was like, I don't come from a whole lot. I was the Jew that didn't have any money. And I had started thinking about it from like, not just from that conversation, but I know like over all of the years, when I was going through like my rough phases, and I would be complaining about like working for Uncle Wallace or just some of my struggles.
Mm-hmm.
And when I felt like people would try to like, girl, you ain't got no problems. Like, your privilege.
Mm-hmm.
It used to irritate me, because I feel like the piece that we don't talk about is when you do tell somebody that they're privileged, it makes you feel like you're trying to take something away from them, like their work. That's at least how I felt. I don't know how other nationalities feel, because there is a privilege that is associated with just being white. But I guess the part about it doesn't mean that you're exempt from adversity, which we always talk about on this podcast. But that's what I kind of wanted to talk about today, was like privilege. What does it mean? Like, do we discount like a lot of our experiences? Because I would say like, you could say 2-parent household versus a 1-parent household. Like, there are pros and cons to all of that stuff.
Right. There are
privileges on both sides, depending on how you may look at it. So that's what my mind went to.
Well, I think that's really beautiful, Raquel. Just thinking about like privilege doesn't like mean that you don't have adversity, and I think that is the misconception, right? Privilege is often seen as everything comes easy. You ain't got to work for nothing. You ain't like you just out here just swimming through the levels, right?
Right.
And reality is privileged or not, like like it comes with hard work. It comes with hard work for some, right? I mean, you may get into some doors that you couldn't work your way into, but
but we both are sitting
okay?
here that have made, and I'm not gonna discredit myself like that either, but we have been given opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel with being called privileged?
Who calls me privileged? Who calls me
No, you're
privileged?
privileged. Like, all jokes aside,
I am.
You're privileged.
Thank you, Jesus. You're privileged too.
I accept. I receive.
Okay.
I receive. Now that I understand that.
But I was
now that I work through my own stuff, and like, I don't like if somebody says that to me, Like, you know,
Now you
black
want
folks,
to get
what
up
they
here
say
and
is you
just throw that
spoiled.
on me.
Yeah, I'm gonna throw it on you.
You
We're
didn't work through your
privileged.
stuff.
I didn't
Now
work.
you're like, oh,
Basically, I didn't work through my
you're
stuff, so I don't
privileged.
take it personal. No more.
Okay.
I don't take it personal. I felt
So
like
what does it mean
motherfuckers
to
was
you that
disciplined.
I am privileged? As I get ready for this, y'all.
So I'm only gonna say this because we've talked about it on like the first episode before we had the YouTube we was on before we were on camera. For example, right? Your father-in-law bought y'all a brand new house for y'all wedding gift.
Okay.
To me, that is privilege. That is one of your biggest. That's one of your biggest expenses that you could ever have.
Oh, Jesus.
Like, right? We can leave it there, but to me, that is.
You don't want to get up here and say that.
To me, that is privilege, though, especially.
I would agree, Raquel, and let me just hop out of my feelings, right? I would agree that is privilege. So many people work their whole lives like trying to build the very thing that we were given. So I would agree that is a level of privilege.
Yeah, I guess when you talk about like privilege, right? It's what puts me, the way that I define privilege is
And
what
I used to
puts
feel
me
real good driving on that block. All y'all making payments, and
right.
my house is paid for.
Right, because every time the mortgage payment, I be like, damn, they ain't got a mortgage. Because people pay that for 30 years. But you know the way that I define privilege is what are those things that gives you like a one up?
Start.
Yeah, a head start. And I think that I had started thinking about privilege from, because you think about when success is complicated, right?
Right.
When I came into like success, I was like, oh, this is a lot. This is just too much. To me, I started thinking about, I don't need all of this. Like, I started getting to the point where I don't need all of this. Like, I'm trying to figure out how to be happy. And I think because I had experienced the other side of like not having, eventually I was able to get to a place to be like, you know what, I can just go ahead and figure something out. So to me, my privilege for me, I've thought about it for myself is, coming from where I come from, like, you can start over. It ain't that serious. Like, just, Amen. And I think that's privilege too, because imagine if you've been on top like all your life. Okay. I ain't used to being on top like all my life. So to be able to, to find peace on possibly coming back down, whatever that may look like, to me, that's a privilege.
Right.
To me, that really is, that to me, that feels like privilege. Like, I'm okay if life happens to go the other way because I ain't always had this. Some people gonna say that that's trauma. Some people might say that it's trauma because you didn't expect yourself to be here. But I do think that to be able to experience the duality of all that life has to offer is a privilege.
Right.
Like, I started like, I'm grateful for my Huntersville days, like, my days with like my dad, like all of it, because I don't, now that I've gotten a taste of what success and money looks like, it makes you just go back and like, life wasn't so bad. Like, life wasn't so bad. Like, because no matter what side of the tracks you're on, like, there are challenges, like, no matter what. Right.
I would definitely rather do life with money than without.
True. True.
But I do get what you're saying, and you do have to find happiness on either side, whether it's without money or limited resources or with it all. Like, it doesn't mean that everything's going to be pouring into your lap with the privilege.
Right. Another thing I had thought about too, from a privilege standpoint. Now, I didn't grow up in a 2-parent household. But when I think about like my strength and independence, I mean, I'm just speaking because I really don't know, but like growing up and like watching my mom like go through some of the things that she's went through.
Mm-hmm.
Like to me, that's a privilege within itself too. Not that you want to see somebody like struggle and have the issues that they have, but like the person that you see today, because I've gotten an opportunity to experience life in that way, like my strength, my sense of independency, like my ability to advocate for myself or fight for myself, whatever word you want to use. It comes from that.
Right, right.
Another privilege to me. Like, I guess I'm curious, like, as we're having this conversation, go ahead.
So, I mean, I guess what I hear you say is what other people may call adversity, you call them privileges.
Yeah,
Right,
yeah.
right.
Put me amongst anybody and I'm going to come out on top and win. And it's because of what others may refer to as adversity. I see it as privilege.
Right.
Like I feel comfortable in any room, any space at this point in my life, and don't really care.
That's beautiful. I think if we
that's beautiful.
No, seriously. A lot of times I think as African American people, we see our adversities as like disadvantages a lot of times. You know, people will be like, oh, I didn't have a family. I only had my mom, and not realize that like that's where your strength comes from. That's
right.
where your resiliency comes from. That's where your fight comes from.
Right.
Or, going hungry. Other people may say, you know what, I ain't have no, they'll look at that as
right.
an adversity and,
And I guess I use the textbook piece, right? Because I get so sick of people writing our stories for us. Like, don't tell me that being a woman I understand that people have their biases, right?
Right.
Like, no matter where you go, but I just think that when you allow other people to like write your narrative and say, okay, because you're a woman, like you're at a disadvantage. I think that you have to understand history and all those things, so I understand where it comes from. But I also think that being a woman is like when you start to talk about our ability to lead with empathy, nurture, like all of these skill sets that they're talking about that are needed today for a lot of roles and positions, and watching like the presidents like in other countries, like those are the strengths that women possess. And I think that it's so, like if you accept, it's one thing to be able to put the information in context, but it's another thing to accept everything that society tries to tell us too. Like you're at a disadvantage because you're a woman. Oh, you're at a disadvantage because of this. And I don't know. I was even from a socioeconomic status. Like, I mean, I still make good money today, right? It ain't what I was. It's not what I was making. But I also, when I think about when I had like the money that was just flowing, you ain't thinking about losing your job or none of that other stuff. I paid for everything. I mean, I didn't think twice. And yesterday, we were in academy, and Caden was like, he wanted this surfboard. Now, Caden know how to swim. I was like, yeah, babe, we'll get you the surfboard. I got to that damn register, and they said $29.99. I said, we are not getting that surfboard. We not. Because you can surf on your own. I put that damn surf.
You cannot surf on your own.
Yes, you can. We don't surf anyway. You can't surf in that swimming pool in our backyard. You just can't. So I put it back, but my point is, I'm a little bit more conscious now about like what I spend and how I spend. Like, but I feel like my creativity has kicked in too. Right. Like with my ideas and all of that. Like I normally would hire, even with like this rebranding my business, and I still do. Sometimes I be like, I need to hire somebody for that. But then I be like, it ain't like what it was before. But you start to even appreciate like, being able to like take like scraps or another and like turn it into something, because, and this is so cliche, right? But everything truly lies within.
Right.
And when you start to really think about that, like the additional resources, they're just tools. They're just tools.
Right.
So, and I saw something the other day, like to be raised well is a privilege.
Mhm.
I think it's very subjective, but
Of course. Because what does it mean to be raised well?
well, I think just in like reading a post, to be raised by parents that are healed.
Okay.
I mean,
I don't know, like, if that puts you now, according to Bruce Lipton,
oh Lord,
that
she's
could put
still
you
reading that book, y'all.
that could put you at an advantage if just like your environment is more nurturing and
I would agree with that.
and all of those things. But of course, that's from the womb all the way to age 7, right?
Right.
So it can have its advantages. However, I do.
Oh, he
think that-
specified age in the book, like from the womb to age 7.
Well, that is when you are kind of in, I guess,
The
theta
early-
waves, and you're just like susceptible to the information and programming of your parents and just your surroundings altogether.
Oh, okay.
And
okay.
then after that age, well, into age 7, your brain changes.
Right.
and
You start
to
to
become a mirror.
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. Okay. For the first 7.
You're more like first 6.
But how many do you remember do you remember your first 7 years? Can you go back that far?
I mean, I have one memory from like when I was 4. That's
You
about it.
do.
Yeah, just one.
What is
Yeah.
it? You don't want to share? Okay. I mean, I have
it's-
a couple.
it's not like it's not a full memory. It's just like I was definitely aware of myself at that point.
Okay.
Yeah.
And when you say to be raised well is a privilege, I guess, and that's that's the thing about trauma, right? Because it's your perception of things. Like, so my mom died when I was 11. I remember being evicted when we were in Ocean View. Like, because I have this fond memory of just losing all of our baby pictures. Like we just don't have any of that. But I remember being upset with my mom, right? Like, I can remember like going in childhood being upset. Like, this is not how kids shouldn't experience this. I remember when she first overdosed. But I was in the 4th grade. So maybe not 7. And then I remember her being on the 8th floor from that overdose. I don't know. I still say though that for me though, I would say that it altered how I felt about my mom and seeing her for a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
But the inner strength that still comes from it, like, you want to do better. It was like a motivation, like you want to do better. You want to beat the odds. Like,
Right.
And wanting to beat the odds without seeing what the odds were either. Because I would still say at that point, I didn't know what the other odds were. I just knew that this is some bullshit. Like, I know that everybody ain't living like this.
Right.
And the odds could be something as small as when, like, when it's time to go trick-or-treating and you take us to Ghent. Right? Like, that don't look like where I'm at or like what I'm used to. So
right, they can actually buy full-size candy bars.
Right, full-size like juice boxes and everything else. Like, so it makes me think about when we say like you need to see it in order to become it.
Right.
Like, I think it still goes back to like just being able to think, like your imagination and being able to just dream. Like, because I don't know that we've ever seen it. I mean, I don't think that I ever seen it until I got to college.
Right. I guess what I hear you saying is that what people like, it's been more so of a privilege to have your upbringing than I don't know what people call it, the adversity.
Yeah, because I even think of how it serves me, like, as a professional. Like, give me any client. Give me any client.
Right.
But that still is it's still the duality, because I don't know if I would be able to say give me any client without having seeing the other side
Right,
either.
multiple
So
experiences.
right. So I guess, I don't know. I just ain't gonna let nobody tell me what is privilege anymore. Like, I'm just not, like, because I have thought of, remember when I first told you that I read it, like, see, like, I'm reading this book, and it said, like, these are what the privileges are, but I've always felt like they were very limiting, and like somebody else decided what the privileges, like, were.
Well, I think it is definitely based on like a broader picture of like society and
The systemic stuff. Right. Because I mean,
but I think that, just if we dig deep in our own lives, or just surface level, even in our own lives, we may find things that give us an upper hand.
Right. And that's the other thing. When you get so caught up on like what's privilege and what's not, like the feeling of feeling inferior to other people.
Right.
And I don't want to feel that way. I mean, been there, right? Like, you don't want to. I think about it from like a Black perspective, right? Like, if they have the advantage, like they're always gonna have the advantage. That's very limiting too.
Right.
And, you think about like the last session the last podcast episode where we were talking about like 95% of your thoughts like drive like your day, like the subconscious piece, like. That within itself could be driving you and you not even be aware of it, because you are aware of the systemic stuff and you're like, this is a privilege. Like, I'm always like...
Right. I'm never going to be white. I'm never going to be a man.
Right.
And, you just move from that aspect instead of, what are your true strengths?
Right. That's what I wanted to talk about today, because I don't know, it was on my heart. And I guess my mind goes to Wallace.
Mm-hmm.
He is the same way. He's the same way. Like, I think that because he has experienced duality,
right.
He can move and he can go anyway. And I just continue to see it as a strength, because it means that I'm not too attached to this and I'm not too attached to that. Not saying that you don't have your feelings behind it, but eventually you can
go either way.
Privileges for you. I mean, I know I said, does anything come to your mind? I have one for you, if you know. I mean, but of course I didn't thought about it.
Lend it to me.
So, y'all know that C does a lot of, like, she does trading. Like, to me, I think is a gift of hers. She has a true passion for it. But before Sierra's life was what it is today, I think that her being a single mom, how I've always viewed it, because I don't know that side. And to be quite honest, shout out to every single mother, because I definitely don't want to do it. I definitely enjoy having a partner. But when I go back and I think about like some of the decisions that you made when it was just like you and Neat, like the decision to get up and say, you know what, I'm gonna move to Houston. And I remember when you had gotten your apartment on Memorial in Memorial City, mm-hmm. and watching you like manage your finances. Like, I was like, woo, like more so it was a still you had to, right? But I remember the joy that you had with being in that place. Like, it's mine. I got it on my own. Maybe it's not where Quail is living at, but when we would come over there, we would have such a good time.
Right.
So to me,
on a budget, y'all.
On a budget, on a budget. And when I go back and to me, I think that being a single mom has taught you a lot. I think in a lot of ways it's been a privilege. That's my opinion, but I don't know how you feel about it. And even watching like Soar today, like in like her sports, and just watching her like grow into this young adult, this young woman. Just like that girl, she did that.
Well, thank you. I mean, raising her has definitely been a privilege. It has definitely been a privilege. But to what you were speaking of, just like about like the whole finances thing, I think that actually I was able to translate that over to being a single mom, but from my dad, and actually sometimes experiencing going without, right? You'll say, oh, you live with both of your parents. Maybe you haven't experienced your lights being cut out, but I have,
Right.
I've experienced like, trying to build and save, and then like cashing in the CD so we can get our lights turned back on. So those, watching my parents, maneuver through life in that way, definitely had some impact on what you saw at those days.
Yeah, because see, I mean, I know how to rob Peter and pay Paul and do all of that stuff, but it's another thing like when you can take like what you have and budget it, because I ain't no budgeter. That's like, I don't even like the word budgeting.
I'm trying not to get to Paul.
Huh? You trying to?
I'm trying not
I rob
to get
Peter, Paul, Sam, Tom. I do what but they're the discipline, because we talk about the fruit all the time. Like to me, to be able to budget represents discipline.
Right.
And I don't care like what you like, how much money you have. I think like it's a skill that everybody should have.
Right. I mean, I'm going through that with my daughter right now. She's like, give me all my money. I'm like, you need to save a third of it.
Oh, with her job now?
Yes. So she started working. And, I think discipline starts from the beginning. And there, we go through some tough spots, right? Generally, when you start, it's like when you start a new diet, it's tough. Like you don't want to, it's not that you don't want to, it's just new, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when you go to eat, you be like, oh man, I won't pose to eat that. But reality is it doesn't match up with your goals, right?
So you remember when you said you took $500 and what was it, in 30 days you turned it into $10,000.
Mm-hmm.
What privileges had gotten you to be able to take $500 and turn it into $10,000 in 30 days?
There's a lot of privileges, right? That had
on both sides of the track.
that came from both sides of the track. The privileges, one, from growing up, being able to
understand
money, and also
wait, let's pause right there, because you said understanding money, right?
Right.
Most people, especially for people that look like you and I, like nobody teaches you how to understand money. So what do you mean when you say like understanding money? Because I think again, it goes back to perception, right?
But you know how to flip, like everybody understand the term flip your money.
True.
But a lot of times when we hear flip your money, like, we were like, ooh, what scheme or scam is that? Right? But that's how I understand. I understand to flip your money, right? And
We've been flipping forever. I was flipping Petey. Somebody gave us $2 to Petey. They only gave you 25 cents.
Right. So
Petey, you only got 25 cents. I got $1.75.
Right. So honestly, that is how I understand it, right? So if I bought an option play and I know you can lose a maximum of this, like whatever the cost of that option is, that is the only thing on the table, right? Mm-hmm. But you also understand the upside, which is the flip part. Now, if this option will make me $250 from putting $125 up, I done just doubled my money.
Right.
Right. So, and then I think is just that right there, right? When you understand I've doubled my money, get out. Like, you don't need a big play. You just need consistent wins.
Right.
And I think that's another thing that like life has taught me, like, because coming from the other side of the tracks, right? What big play are you really going for?
To get out.
But what leads to getting out? Consistent wins.
Right.
You just need consistency, no matter how small.
You know who comes to my mind too right now? Adriana. Mm-hmm. Because, like, I admire her so much. I've never seen it. I'm probably getting teary-eyed. Like, that girl is so strong. Mm-hmm. She is so strong. And, like, she admires me and tells me, like, how much she loves me, and just knowing, like, her, her life story. Mm-hmm. Adriana has been, like, the other day she won another small business award. Right. Like, she don't have not even half the resources that I've had.
Consistency, right?
Like, and when you, like, put that girl in any room with anybody, put her in a room with me, she'll probably surpass me. Like, because I think that we get so caught up on, like,
what is seen to be a disadvantage.
And not even realizing, like, those are our privileges. Like, that girl, and she got her own cars riding around in Norfolk, like, with her Bliss in home health care. She got, wealthy clients that, like, appreciate and love the services that she provides. And, when she sent me, like, oh, Quay, get a small business, I'm like, girl, I don't know how to write, like just watching her essays, she sent me, like, her essay, right? Mm-hmm. And it wasn't about no MLA, no APA. Like, she wrote her essay to win that small business award from her heart. Right. Not from, like, having no MBA or, like, it don't, just make sure, like, that shit don't, there's value in it, but that shit don't mean nothing at the end of the day. Like,
it's value in formatting.
Huh? There's value in, but you got chat.
But there's real value in,
yeah, when I think, like, she has, that was a $10,000, I'm telling her business a little bit. But no, like, I think she may have put it on Facebook. But, like, and, like, to know what her business does every year. Like, I didn't even know that she sees it as an accomplishment. And when I tell you, like, if we were going by textbook, and then, like, what you said that Bruce Lipton said about, like, from 0 to 7 years, nothing on her side. Nothing on her side. Like, when I listen to her, I be like, I ain't even got what she got. Like, what she has in her, I don't even have it. Like, I just think.
Well, that is what they be trying to figure out about us Black folks.
Like, what is it?
Like, what is it? Like, why can I, like, drag you through the mud and you still come out on top? Like, I hate to say it, but that is us. Why can we go through the hardships and you still, like, be the MJs, not just of your court, but every court you step on?
Right.
So,
right.
I think that, I guess, I tell you, I just keep getting this thing that's what you're talking about. Like when you talk about privilege is actually just gratitude for your experience. As you know, and not staying victim to what you've been through, what your challenges were, and yeah.
So I know, some people, I've heard before, like, where you're really good at reframing stuff. Like, to me, it's not even about reframing. Like, I really believe this. Like,
I mean, I don't know if it's a. I
but for
mean,
some
when
people,
I
it's
sit and I listen to you,
reframing.
and you come at it from several different angles, I don't know if it's reframe,
I'm
right?
not
I
reframing.
I feel it. I feel it. I feel that you are, genuinely grateful for anything that someone else may consider adversity, but you feel like it's definitely giving you the step ahead.
Right. I really feel that way.
Yeah, I can feel it.
Yeah. Okay. Because, it's just like, it's always easy to put a spin on life. And I do think that there is a lot of that goes on, like,
Right.
put a spin on it.
Right.
Yeah, and it's really not about putting a spin on. Like, I really believe that to be true. And I just think about, like, if we spent less time trying to, like, because reframing is a tool, right?
Right.
But it still goes back to the essence of who you are and what you believe to be true about life.
Right. If you don't believe the reframe, then it does you no
good. It does you no good. I guess that's the thing. That's why I always be saying with CBT, like, I can help you reframe, but if you don't really believe it, it may serve you, like, in moments, but does it continue to serve you in a way to where you're continuing to build those skills that's needed to deal with, like, the complex things, continue to build, like, a sense of resiliency? Like, no, because I believe it, not you.
Right.
It does you no good to believe it in the moment.
True.
So, did you have, because we can,
no,
I didn't cry.
I think this was a really, really great episode.
Yeah.
Really great episode. And I think that so many people can get caught up on to what privilege is and be mad as hell that you look at your adversities as privilege versus like the white man and social economic status and all that other stuff. Like, but that is what propels us Black people forward.
Yeah, or anybody. Like, it's a catalyst for growth and change. So I'm gonna look in this camera. Adversity is a privilege. You're looking at privileges, like, just listening and talking to C, and we've experienced privileges on both sides. But I would say that for me, like, all of my privileges, most of my privileges lie in the adversities, like, that I've experienced. So don't allow anybody to tell you textbook privilege, because it's a very limiting way at looking at yourself, and positioning yourself to win and thrive at life. Like, go back from this episode and think about, like, some of the things that you've experienced. Had you not experienced those things, would you be winning in the way that you're winning? Would you be able to pivot, change, be flexible in the way that you're doing? And I would tell you probably not. So thank you so much for listening to this episode. If you have not subscribed to our podcast, Success is Complicated, on at YouTube, and then you can follow me at Success is Complicated. C is C Bizzle, CEEBIZZLE, on Instagram. Thank you so much for listening to us, and we will see y'all next week for our last episode before we go on break. We're out.